The hippie's body was finally found by two angler buddies from Glendale. And since they had set up their camp at the West Fork of the creek, and that was 8 miles back the hiking trail, they didn't even immediately report the body. They really didn't want it to mess up their fishing trip. That's how strange this story is. It starts out like that, where two people find the body. They don't even care to report it. They just continue fishing. When they first noticed the body in the water, it just looked like a strange lump in between two boulders. Let's go look at that. That's what I would have said. Upon further inspection, the lump was a dead body. And this corpse was severely decomposed and covered in animal bites. The horrific part, where one arm had been torn off, leaving a gaping wound at the right shoulder area. This is another one of them stories direct from Helter Skelter that I just don't believe. I don't believe none of it. I've investigated everything of it. I've even walked back into the Narrows, and we'll show you that. We'll show you where Ronald Hughes was, what possibly could have happened to him along the way, what happened along the way. We could find, we'll look at the paperwork, we'll go down into the Narrows, we'll look at all the things that led up to the death of Ronald Hughes. Where was he? Who did he get in arguments with? They said he got in an argument with Manson, and Manson wanted him dead. Is that the case? Did the Manson family really want Ron Hughes dead? They said they killed him. At least Bugliosi did. And our grandparents must have been stupid as hell to believe anything in that book. But we'll look into it and check it out right here, right now, today.
Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign. I feel like I'm losing my mind. Everybody in the...
He's cut himself out symbolically with this axe across his forehead, which he inflicted with a razor blade. One of the defense attorneys at one time told me that Mr. Manson may very well be Jesus Christ reincarnate.
Society's a myth, put there to make you sit. Listen to what they give, don't ask questions, shut your lid. Yeah, don't ask questions, shut your lid. I need to run away from this and go get off the grid.
Death wasn't an uncommon thing in this area, because on January the 29th, 1969, just 1 year prior, Deputy Sheriff Chester Larson, along with 3 other men and 6 young boys who they were trying to rescue and evacuate from the area, all 10 people were killed by the Sesame water from flash floods that covered the trail. The story's always been told that Ron Hughes ran into a storm when he got to Sesame. That's not the case. It actually started raining 2 days prior to Ron Hughes even deciding to go to Sesame. So on the way, it was probably pouring down. In fact, 2 days before he got there, on November the 25th, 1970, campers reported they had seen a body floating in a large pool at the Sesame Hot Springs. They said they had seen the victim swimming there earlier. The following day, the body was removed by the Ventura County Coroner's Office, and it was identified as an escaped convict from Soledad State Prison.
Since you're a close friend of Ron Hughes, the mysteriously missing attorney, you must by this time be really worried.
Yes, I really am. I don't think that Mr. Hughes would have gone off out of Los Angeles and not notified someone unless he were in some kind of trouble or couldn't reach a phone.
Well, we received some information this morning from a very close personal acquaintance of Mr. Hughes that Hughes contacted him on Thanksgiving Eve and asked for a ride to the Sesame Hot Springs area of Ventura County, which is a remote mountainous area. He said that he declined because his wife was 9 months pregnant, but that Hughes indicated to him he was definitely going to Sesame and was going to contact 1 or 2 other people for a ride. We firmly believe that he's in the area, although we're concerned with inclement weather conditions, and we're actually concerned for his physical safety.
Covering court cases for 25 years in this town. I've covered a lot of crazy ones, but nothing like this. What else new can happen in this one, Paul?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. It's an emotionally draining and fatiguing case. I get up in the morning and I ask myself...
Okay, let's get this story straight now. Ron wants to go to Sespe Hot Springs. His car's so dilapidated, it's got so many tickets on it that if he gets caught driving it, it'll be impounded. He goes and asks the neighbors then. He asks one neighbor, and that neighbor's wife happens to be pregnant, so he can't go along. So then Hughes goes to the next neighbors. He asks them, and they're 17-year-old kids. And they decide to take him up there. When they get there, their car gets caught in mud. It says they take off running, and Hughes' fat ass can't keep up with them, and he gets left behind. It's already weird to me. What the hell are you doing up there with 17-year-old kids for? Why are you going up there when you got court on Monday? I don't. The story's so weird that now he's up in Sespe by himself. The other people gone. They hitched a ride back with hitchhikers, they said. Like Hughes couldn't have fit in the car with them. I don't get it. Why did they leave him behind? Why did they take him there in the first place? It's almost like he was on a death wish to get there. And now that he's there, him in Sespe, pouring down rain, stranded, the people took off on him. He makes 4 phone calls back to Los Angeles. How? There's no cell phones. There's not even a phone booth in the area. How did this happen? But anyway, he made 4 phone calls back to tell him he ain't gonna be showing up in court. Okay, why'd you even go? Oh, man. The first call, a call to authorities, came from a man identifying himself as Hughes that would lead them to believe he was still alive at that point. One of the calls was received at the courtroom, and one of the calls went to the office of Paul Fitzgerald. Then one of the calls went to the friend with the pregnant wife who couldn't take Hughes at the very beginning, who would later attach a note to Hughes's door indicating Hughes was stuck in the flooded Sespe region and wouldn't come back until the roads were clear. The telephone operator who took the call at Fitzgerald's office said that she couldn't be certain that the voice was Hughes. She said the caller sounded much younger. The court reports that the sheriff recovered 14 volumes of trial transcripts from a VW near the hot springs with Hughes' name on the covers. And while Hughes was missing in the area of Sespe, on December 17th, started another series of heavy storms that struck the region with rain amounts in between 7.3 inches and 1.84 inches of rain.
This was right before final summation. So he doesn't come back to court, and the court put the case in recess on a day-to-day basis, hoping that poor Hughes would show up one day and walk through the courtroom door, but he never did.
Bugliosi says in Helter Skelter that Manson would threaten Hughes in court. "I don't want to see you again in this court," he said. And he never did. I wonder if that even happened. Half the shit Bugliosi says, I don't even believe happened. I think he makes this shit up along the way, seriously. Did that even happen? Because he's the only one I ever heard say it. Never came out in the newspapers where the court reported, "Hey, guess what Manson said in court today?" Nah, it was only him who said it. He said a lot of things, though. Because he also said in Helter Skelter that Sandra Good said that Hughes' death was one of the first of the family's retribution murders. Whatever the hell that means. Sandra Good said a lot of things. She never came through on most of it. She spent a lot of time in jail for having a big-ass mouth. So if he really thought that they were retribution murders, and this was one of the people of the court, and they just blow it off like, ah, yeah, the Manson family killed him, let's move on. One more for the Manson family. Bullshit.
Sandra Good, former member of the family, still a member of the family at the time, said that, quote, Ronald Hughes was the first of the retaliation murders. The implication being that the Manson family had murdered Hughes. 4 years later, I got a call in my office from a former member of the family wanting to remain anonymous, and he flat out said the Manson family murdered Hughes.
Let's go to the spot they found this hippie at. It's in the middle of what they call Condor Refuge. It's near Pigeon Flat. close to the West Fork of Sesame Creek and Alder Creek. The area is called the Narrows. It wasn't searched before because the area is so rugged, and the creek, it's so far up, it's like 8 miles up from where he first started out at, that the deputies just didn't even go that far. How would they even know? It was Paul Fitzgerald who finally identified Hughes' body. He said he had a strange shaped head, sort of majestic configuration to it. And then he went and said it was about the same kind of head. Some of the beard is still there. And Fitzgerald supplied some dental records he got from Hughes' Beverly Hills dentist. Strange. Hughes had a Beverly Hills dentist, but yet he was living in a friend's garage on a mattress. Hughes served in the United States Army. He graduated from UCLA Law School. He finally passed the bar exam on his 4th attempt. He slept on a mattress on the floor of a friend's garage, his bar certificate hanging on the wall beside it. He often came to court in mismatched clothes, sometimes food stained, known as the hippie lawyer. I wonder if he ever went there on LSD. Bet you did. Stephen K. Like Bugliosi, he says some crazy stuff about this. I think they was like in a conspiracy together to make a bunch of shit up. He said Hughes was last seen in Sesame Hot Springs, swimming in a natural pool after taking LSD. How the fuck would he know he was taking LSD? He knew the guy was taking LSD? I just don't get it. Shouldn't he have turned him into the court? I mean, come on, man, this is bullshit. It's crazy, I'll tell you, man. It's nuts. It just makes no damn sense. There was a lot of people in this conspiracy. It wasn't just Bugliosi and Stephen K. For now. It's them two. Well, then we move on to the Long Beach Press Telegram, and where they have a news reporter who's holding back a witness. A witness who says that they heard gunshots in the middle of the night. A witness that lived over by the Tate house. 2 o'clock in the morning, they said they heard gunshots and screams, which would have made the whole scene a lot different than they said it was in court if they would have let this. But no, she was holding the witness back. And here's what they said. Hughes knew the communal family of Charles Manson months before Manson and 3 female co-defendants were charged with the murder and conspiracy. How the fuck did they know that? Are they making shit up in the paper too? You know, there's so much shit I just don't believe. And if you look deep, nothing makes sense. Again, like Manson said, no sense makes sense. And this, no sense makes no sense. Stephen K. would also go on to say Manson threatened Hughes, just like Bugliosi said, going along with the same old plan. He knew Manson and the family before the murders. He was a UCLA law student. He would go out to Spawn Ranch to do drugs with the family. Well, if he was in UCLA and he was going there and he needed dope, he probably did go out to the ranch. Who knows? Did Kay go out to the ranch too? Because I think at one time, Kay, I think he dated Sandra Good, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, did he go out to the ranch too and get dope? How does he know all this shit? How do these people, then they don't even say it. They never said any of this crap until after it was all over with. The person that was in charge of the investigation of the Hughes case was an investigator from Ventura County. He was a sheriff's sergeant, a guy by the name of Charlie Rudd. It wasn't the first time that he had ever ran into Charlie Manson. Just like all these people in this case, they all seem to know each other. Oh yeah, I knew him from way back when. Yeah, remember when? How does this keep happening here? But anyway, it happens again with Charlie Rudd. He's a sheriff, and now he's in charge of the Hughes case, and he gets this tip in the sheriff's department that Hughes is buried in Death Valley. So he goes out there and digs. He goes out there and digs for a couple days with his buddy.
My partner, when I went up there and dug for 2 days, unable to locate Mr. Hughes or any indication as to what might have happened to him.
Anyway, let's get back to Rudd. It was 3 years before Hughes, Rudd met Manson after he was arrested in Ventura County on a minor offense of LSD. Back to LSD. Everything in this whole case seems to always come back to LSD. LSD, LSD, all the time. It's LSD. It should have been called the LSD case. But anyway, Rudd happened to be a court officer when Manson was arrested, and he said he talked to Manson about his harem of women that he had and his lifestyle that he had, and then Manson was on his way again to meet him down the road later on. Again, it's so weird that these people keep on meeting each other. You remember that, you probably remember that arrest that Charlie Manson met Rudd at. It was very famous. Everybody's seen it all over the world. Remember? It's right there. That's it. That's the arrest where they met. Isn't that weird, too? It's all just strange to me. I don't know. Call me stupid, maybe. Well, anyway, at least Rudd had some sense when it came to the investigation of Hughes. And, you know, he says, hey, it was probably the water that killed him. Yeah, it probably was. Or was it? Somebody throw him in the water? Somebody hit him over the head? So what? Bad acid? Come on, maybe the water? But anyway, at least it was better than the Manson family did it. Jesus Christ.
When the water comes down, it sweeps the debris and you along with it. And that's what happened to Hughes.
Let me recap this a little bit. We got a dead guy here who's on LSD who just accidentally drowned. Come on, man. I've been taking notes here. Something ain't adding up. He first goes to one house, asks to hitchhike. He wants to hitchhike to Sespe. It's pouring down rain there already. One guy they're dragging out of that place dead already. He was an escaped convict. Was he going there to meet this convict? Who knows? Why in the hell? There's a convict dead in the water up there already. It's got to be on the radio already. They're evacuating people out of that place. Why are you headed to Sespe, man? It doesn't make no sense. You seem like you really want to get there badly, too. You really want to get there bad because you went to one neighbor. He says, nope, got a pregnant wife. She won't let me go. Then you go to the second people. They say, okay, we'll take you up. You get up there and you get stranded. They're 17 years old. They take off. They hitchhike home. You don't hitchhike back with them. You stay. You got court on Monday. One of the biggest court cases of your life. It's the goddamn Manson family. And you're up there, whatever, swimming in the hot springs, taking LSD, working on the final summation. However the fuck they say that word, summation? I don't know. You're working on your final summation. And what? Does any of this make sense? Didn't make no sense to me. None whatsoever. The whole thing's screwed up. So who, if anybody, would have had a good reason to see Hughes dead? Because he did get in some fights with people before this, and one of them he got into was with the damn President of the United States. I think maybe the President of the United States might have wanted him dead. I don't know. But how did Ronald Hughes and Charles Manson meet? How did they meet? Let's look and see. Hughes would come out and say that he visited Manson in county jail. So, did he know him before? Did he buy dope over at Spawn Ranch? We'll never know, I guess.
Are you going to go ahead with the psychiatric examination?
No, we've withdrawn the psychiatric examination. I've seen Mr. Manson in county jail for probably more than any other attorney, 70, 80 times, and it's certainly my feeling that Mr. Manson is sane. There's no question about his sanity in my
Manson had originally asked that Hughes be his private investigator, but this guy here said, no way, sorry, Charlie. This was Manson's attorney. His name is Charles Hollow Peter. What a name, Hollow Peter. Anyway, he filed to motion to have Manson checked out psychiatrically, and Manson didn't like that, so he dismissed his. Manson then attempted to have Ira Reiner appointed to be his attorney so he could get back his pro per status. That's what he was trying to do the whole time. He was trying to be his own attorney, and that was denied. Then he would go on with the judge back and forth in court. All he was trying to do was speak for himself in court. And that's exactly what Ronald Hughes was trying to do. He wasn't trying to be his attorney. He was trying to actually get Manson pro per status so Manson could be his own attorney and speak for himself. Because Manson goes into court and he's like, well, sir, I believe it's best for the case in the court if I represent myself. Judge, he wasn't having any of that. He was like, I am no way convinced that you're competent to represent yourself. And then Manson would go on to say, Your Honor, there is no way I can give up my voice in this matter. If I can't speak my own defense and converse freely in this courtroom, then it ties my hands behind my back, and if I have no voice, then there's no sense in having a defense. And then King goes back to the same thing. You understand it's in your best interest to have a lawyer present during this case. Then Manson responds back, lawyers play with people. I'm a person I don't want to be played with. Judge Keene allowed Manson to move forward with his wishes, but insisted that he meet with attorney Joseph Ball, who could help prepare him for the trial. I found Mr. Ball to be a very nice gentleman. He probably understands everything there is to know about the law, but he doesn't understand the generation gap. He doesn't understand free love society. He doesn't understand people who are trying to get out from under all this. Mr. Manson, do you understand your fundamental lack of experience and understanding in the courtroom and the severity of the crimes in which you've been charged? It is in your best interest to listen to the advice of your lawyer. Finally, Manson moved to substitute Hughes in. And it was granted. Hughes then immediately withdrew Hollow Peter's motion. Hughes represented Manson until June, when Kinnear was substituted after Manson's habeas corpus petition for pro per status was denied. So Ronald Hughes did his job. He didn't actually do his job. I mean, they didn't get it, but he tried. Remember the lady that we were talking about earlier from the newspaper who was withholding a witness who said that they heard gunshots in the middle of the night, 2 o'clock in the morning, and screams, which could have changed the whole scenario of the Tate murders, but that witness was being withheld because they didn't want their name disclosed. Well, her name was Mary Neiswender. And she, ironically, was the only reporter that Manson would even talk to during the whole 10 months of his trial. And now we come to Halloween. The press corps, the people in the media, you know, the ones that write the stories, the ones that were basically, they said were in Bugliosi's office, and this picture might prove it, because they had a Halloween party. And at this Halloween party, they had all sorts of things going on here that are just peculiar and strange. Some of the more famous people in the media, like Mary and Linda Deutsch, they're all in here. And they all have nooses around their necks, which is not kosher for today. Hughes, he's all friendly with the reporters. He's got his arms around the reporters. He's in the picture too. So's Bugliosi. And above Bugliosi's head, what's it say? He's here to do the devil's work. With all these reporters, with a lawyer who's now representing Leslie Van Houten, hobnobbing at a Halloween party. What's going on here? Doesn't make any sense either. None of this stuff makes any sense. And the chicks all have X's on their foreheads. They're all wearing black. They all have nooses around their necks. There's even a noose in the background hanging. I don't know. And they're all here to do the devil's work.
President Nixon today expressed the opinion that hippie leader Charles Manson, now on trial in Los Angeles, is guilty of murder. But an aide said he meant to use the word alleged. Dan Rather reports from Denver.
It was at an unscheduled, hastily arranged news conference inside Denver's federal courthouse that President Nixon made his assertion that Charles Manson is guilty.
I noted, for example, the coverage of the Charles Manson case when I was in Los Angeles. Front page every day in the papers. It usually got a couple of minutes in the evening news. Here is a man who was guilty, directly or indirectly, of 8 murders without reason. Here is a man yet who, as far as the coverage was concerned, appeared to be rather a glamorous figure.
Following his remark about Manson, Mr. Nixon also spoke of two of the defense lawyers who were jailed overnight last week. The president declared that they had been, quote, guilty of the most outrageous, contemptuous behavior. In Los Angeles, one of those lawyers, Ronald Hughes, had this reaction.
I would say the president is, as a lawyer, should know better to say things like this. He is a lawyer. He knows that he should know that he's prejudicing the outcome of a major trial, which has already had too much attendant publicity on it. And I feel that his remarks, just those remarks, are much more contemptuous than mine ever were.
The jury is sequestered, so it shouldn't affect the outcome of the trial as it now stands. Isn't that right?
Well, it's hard to imagine keeping the remarks of the President of the United States, no matter how closely you sequester a jury, it's hard to imagine keeping those remarks from them.
You feel that they will get through?
Well, not only is it possible that they will get through, but in the event we have a mistrial in this case, I think he's absolutely prejudiced any further jury panel that we might come by.
The Manson defense lawyers moved for a mistrial, but the judge denied it.
And of course, after Nixon made those remarks about Manson, he would come out in the press to just cover it up, basically. And my remarks were in the context of my expression of a tendency on a part of some to glamorize those identified with crime. The last thing I would do would prejudice a jury and the legal rights of any person in any circumstance. To set the record straight, I do not know and did not intend to speculate whether the Tate defendants are guilty in fact or not. All the facts in the case have not yet been presented. The defendants should be presumed innocent at this stage of their trial. Ronald Hughes, he would come back and he would hit hard on Nixon. Charles Manson is a pitiable little man accused of 7 murders in Beverly Hills. I accuse him, Mr. Nixon, of killing thousands throughout the world with his war machine. Judge Older would ask the jurors, he would question them all if this would affect them. And juror number 2, Shirley Evans, said she also read the headline. What did you think of what you saw? Older asked. The first thing I thought was, that's ridiculous. I don't believe the President of the United States would say a thing like that. I think he has more important things to do. Okay. Then Marie Messmer, a retired newspaper drama critic, said she saw the headline. Would it affect her performance as a juror? No one does my thinking for me. Well, Nixon had his own secret tapes, and they didn't call him Tricky Dick for nothing. And he got caught on his own tapes later talking about this Manson case. And some of the things he said prior to this don't add up to what he was saying on this tape, because he was making it sound like he was in total control of whatever he was doing there. He knew exactly what he was doing there, and he was faking us out, and he was pulling the wool over our eyes, and we were believing it all. Good old Tricky Dick.
We get urban now, we please. I want you to find me a man by noon. I won't be ready to call for a recommendation of the man to work directly with me on this whole situation. You know, I've got to have one. I've got to have one. I mean, I can't have a high-minded lawyer like John Earl or somebody like that. I want somebody that's just as tough as I am for a change. Just as tough as I was, I would say, in this case. Where we won the case in the press. These goddamn lawyers all fighting around about, never forget that they're also worried about the Manson case. I know exactly what we were doing on Manson. You've got to win some things in the press. These guys don't understand. They have no understanding of politics. They have no understanding of public relations. John Hicks was that way. John always sort of, is it technically correct? You think the price fix the New York Times is worried about all the legal niceties of sons of bitches are killing them? They're very animated God by leaving the press. This is what we've got to get. I want you to shake these things up around here. Now you do it. Shake them up. Get them off their goddamn dead asses. And say, now that's what this is talking about. We're up against an enemy, a conspiracy. They're using any means. We are going to use any means. Is that clear? Did they get the Brookings Institute rated last night? No. Get it done. I want it done. I want the Brookings Institute to say, please, out.
So in those tapes, he was only talking about robbing a safe. But he was making comparisons to Manson about winning that case in the press. Winning it in the press. He didn't care about the victims. I mean, he had no sympathy for that. It was all about winning it in the... Winning what? I mean, if these people kept winning what? So it makes all this... And then Hughes getting in a fight with him in the newspaper about... And Hughes was also making comparisons a lot of times in the press to the Chicago 7 and the Manson case, because it was in the 7 case they were conspiring to cause a riot, and in this case Manson was conspiring to have people. It was almost sort of similar, and he was making comparisons to that, and he was pointing out the government, and then he pointed out Nixon in the newspaper for killing way more people than Manson ever killed. So would Nixon, using, like he said at the end of the tape, by any goddamn means possible, get rid of somebody like that? To me, it seems, by looking at the whole story, Richard Nixon would have probably had a better reason to get rid of Ronald Hughes than anybody. By any goddamn means necessary. And he sure had them too. I don't know. We'll never know. Nobody will ever know. But I tell you one thing. They keep wanting to point it back on Charles Manson, and anything that they point on Charles Manson, there's something fishy going on there. You gotta check it out further. Anyway, thanks for watching. Happy Day of the Dead to Ron. And see you again next time. Peace.
That's it, the end of the song. Next time you'll sing along. Trust me, there's nothing wrong. I just need to carry on, cause society's a myth put there to make you sit. Listen to what they give. Don't ask questions, shut your lid. Yeah, don't ask questions, shut your lid.